Good morning, all, or happy lunchtime to those my friends in Southdowns. And welcome to Kalbardr's Corner for the first episode of Coffee with Kalbardr. I am Lord Kalbardr Geiler, companion of the Meridian Cross, companion of the Argent Comet, companion of the Argent Lamp, Osprey, and Reaper, coming to you live, as always, from the Barony of the Osprey on the southern coast of Meridia's. Since the show is coffee-themed, today's coffee of choice for me is 8 o'clock's Caramel Macchiato. Point of order, I tried to find a coffee cup that wasn't my normal green cup, but apparently the Hulk is still too green for the background, and I did not consider that, so you get most of my coffee cup today. Anyways, now that introductions are out of the way, let's get right into today's topic, which is why awards matter. So like I said, fair warning, this entire show is going to be just me ranting. Or expressing my opinions about some topic, and we'll likely dovetail into other topics, and I'll discuss things that come up in comments and things like that. So this topic came up to me specifically, and it's come up a couple times in conversations. It's involved in any of those like groups on Facebook where it's the Ask the Shiv or Ask the Peers or whatever, any of those sort of groups. The conversation comes up a lot of why do we need awards, or why do we need more awards, or why don't we have enough awards, or whatever. And last night on Between Two Peers, it came up because in the West Kingdom, drink for in the West, because that's funny. Out in the West, they don't have a grant level award. So they have their sort of AOA or their Tier 1 awards, and then they have their peerage awards. In Meridia's, we have a Tier 1, a Tier 2, and a Tier 3. So we have an AOA, a GOA, and then a peerage level awards for each of the sort of tracks, whether it's heavy fighting, rapier fighting, service, or arts and sciences. And I think that's important because it sort of gives people their progress steps, but also it's a very obvious track, right? It's a very obvious progression path. So that discussion came up of why do we need these cookies, or why do we need these merit badges? And a lot of people, when they talk about awards, they become degrading. They say, "Oh, it's just another cookie. It's just another thing. You need your gold star," or for those in Advanced Story, an actual gold star, frankly. But these awards matter, and they have purpose. And I've talked about this a couple times with people I trust and people I know about titles as well, and I'll sort of dovetail into that. It became especially pointed for me when the other day for my last What You Playing Wednesday, I had to update my introduction script because I got a new award last week from Their Majesties, and that was really cool. And I appreciated that from them, and it was nice, especially because they mentioned my channel and all this. But I started updating my introduction script to add the Companion of the Argent Comet in there because I have all my other awards. And I was like, wow, this is starting to sound kind of lengthy and starting to get a little preachy, and like, I'm reading this going, oh, you're great, Cal, but like, why do you have to stroke your own ego here, right? And I know that's been the conversation a lot, is people don't want to talk about their awards, people don't want to wear their awards, people don't want to wear their regalia because it looks, you're supposed to be humble, especially those that are on the track to become knights. That humility is one of the virtues. So people don't wear their regalia, or people don't mention they have awards, or people don't want to acknowledge their awards. But they matter. So why do they matter? So there's two schools of thought from me, and this is completely just me rambling. So if there's questions, if there's something I say that you don't agree with, please let me know in the comments, and I'll address that. All right, so I think that there's two schools of thought, or two sort of directions we can go with why they matter. Direction one is because someone else thought enough of you to give you that award. All right, so let's go down that path first. But the other path that we'll go down is because people need recognition, and people need to be told that they're doing right. And that one's a little rockier. So we'll hit that one second. All right. Also, apparently my tattoos don't show up on camera. That's fine. All right. So people thought enough of you to give you an award. All right. So let's go down that rabbit hole. So when an award is given in most kingdoms, I'm speaking from Meridia specifically, but for most kingdoms, at least somebody wrote a letter to Their Majesties or their excellencies in this case, and said, hey, we think this guy is an awesome person. He did these awesome things. We think you should give him an award. And the crown looked at that, did some sort of research into you, and agreed. So at least 2 people thought you were neat, right? And then at least 10 minutes or some period of time was given to you in some court where you were the important person and you took up people's time. To then not wear that award or not acknowledge that award or not accept it, to me, is rude. And it is sort of shitting on what those people said about you. Now that may sound a bit extreme, and I can sort of agree and sort of hear it myself, but I think the point's valid. That people cared enough about you to write an award, write at least write a letter, or probably in this case multiple people's, to not acknowledge them, at least to not accept that, to not embrace that, is rude. Now, the other half of that is that goes too far, right? So I list all my awards and show all the accolades I have. And when I teach classes, I also try to show in the class notes or whatever, I will list whatever accolades I think are appropriate for that topic. So I teach class about heraldry. I'm going to list all my things that are arts and sciences or service related or whatever one's appropriate for the thing. And also list my like degrees from RUM that are heraldic related. Because that's what I would do in a mundane setting. Is on my resume, I show, here's why I'm good at this job, or here's why you should hire me, or here's why you should listen to my opinion, because I have this experience, right? So I think those awards show that. But what they shouldn't be used for is cudgels or bludgeoning devices for achieving some goal. And that's a bit where the titles part of this comes into play as well. That I'll dovetail. All right, so the other route for the thing is people thought enough of you, and people need the acknowledgement, right? Okay, so as human beings, we are all, most of us, achievement oriented. We appreciate some sort of accolade, some sort of achievement, some sort of you did a good job, right? Not everybody's like that, admittedly, and I am much more goal oriented than others. Like I enjoy a good checkbox. There's a reason that I'm a project manager, and that my every morning starts out with me going to a whiteboard in my living room and updating it with the name, the date, and my tasks for the day. Generally, the tasks for our household. Mostly that's just keeping track of 3 adults, and what we're trying to accomplish in a day is tantamount to lunacy, but whiteboards help with that. So I like having a checkbox, like to show that I've done a thing, and it's that serotonin boost, right? So that's what these awards are, and for me at least, is showing that you're another step in the right direction. You're doing the right things. You're saying the right things. You're walking the right path, right, towards whatever goal you have. So I don't have a goal of being an. Let me say this. Let me say this clearly here. I don't have a goal of wearing a white belt, or wearing a pelican medallion, or wearing a laurel wreath. Okay, that doesn't mean I don't want to be a knight, or I don't want to be a pelican, or I don't want to be a laurel. Okay, and that's often another discussion that's frowned upon. Of you can't want to be one of those things, you just are. And I've said that a couple of times. Is I don't want to be a knight. I will be a knight. I will be that thing. Because that's an internal thing. That is something I can control. Of I will be knightly, and that's maybe the more appropriate way to say it is I will be knightly. And by the way, my personal opinion of knights, laurel, pelicans, you're all knights. A peer is knight. A peer is knightly. They're equivalent. I think you should all be knights. I think all peers should be knights. Knights of thing. It's actually the more period way to do that, and would be a lot easier for a lot of things. But that's my opinion. So you're all knights in my head. They're all equivalent. All right. So all right. So Brian said he thinks it's BS. It's okay to want things. I agree. I agree. I think it is okay to want things. And I think it's okay to want things, and it's okay to have a goal. the argument's always been that you can't want to be a knight. I'm going to use knight specifically in this because I think they're all knights. Because that's the thing you were acknowledged for. It's not a thing you can achieve. I think it's always been the argument against it. But yeah, I agree. I think it's BS because there are sort of tangible things that can be recognized as someone being knightly. Now, whether I'm ever recognized, whether I ever wear a belt that where others have recognized me as a knight, I frankly could care less. But that does not mean I will stop striving for emulating those aspects in my life and trying to be chivalrous and trying to be courteous and generous and kind and thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent, and all those scout mottos that I learned so many years ago. Because that's just who I want to be as a person, right? But back to topic, those awards, right? So my Meridian Cross, and my Argent Comet, and then from Their Excellency the Osprey, my Argent Lamp. Those are things that show me that I've done something on that path, and that I'm there. Now it's funny. So I'm a self-proclaimed stick jock, right? I'm a fighter first and everything else second. And according to my awards, that's the exact opposite of the case. I haven't received a fighting award, even though to me that was my primary goal in the SCA was to be a fighter. So what that shows me is that I'm doing well in my service and I'm doing well in my arts and sciences, and I'm not doing as well in my fighting for whatever reason. And I have opinions on that too of why I haven't been recognized for that. I mean, I'm not that great of a fighter. Don't get me wrong, but I've done my service and my arts and sciences more publicly and more frequently than I have my fighting, and I recognize that now. But it took me receiving an award for my arts and sciences to really step back and go, wait, what happened? How did that happen? Like, why didn't I get a fighting award first, right? And that was really interesting to me. Is like it pushed me back a second to reanalyze myself, and that's why. And that's why these awards are important, because it showed me not only was I doing something well, that I wasn't doing something else well, or at least well enough, at least as well as I thought I was, right? So, if my goal in the SCA was to be recognized as a knight, to wear a white belt, right? I'm less towards that goal from in the grand scheme of checkboxes than I am to becoming a laurel, for instance. That's weird. Like, think about it. Like if you sort of look at that as these stepping stones, right? And they're not supposed to be, but they are. Interesting. All right, so the second half of this rant. And please, if there's I see people watching, and you guys are awesome, and I appreciate everybody showing up for me to hang out this morning, because this is literally just Richard or Cal ranting. If you have comments, please throw them in the chat. I love talking to you. I love this to be interactive. So there's the other half of this, and I think the awards play into this too as well. So if you haven't seen it yet, I think I love regalia. Part of what I do as a herald is protocol and precedence and regalia, and just that's what's important to me. So I have my Meridian Cross on a chain now that I made this chain. So I'm super proud of it. Actually, is why I show it off. But I plan to actually have my other awards hanging from this as well. So this will be my color of estate or my award chain or whatever. But it's because I think regalia is important. Part of what I do in the SCA is we are emulating a medieval culture, whether it's a Middle Eastern or European or Asian or Native American, whatever. We're emulating a culture, right? Hold on. Counter argument for the sake of discussion. All right. Deliberately being devil's advocate here. My full position is very conflicted. Awards are nice, but don't really matter for two reasons. Ooh, fun. Okay. First, so long as there are people contributing greatly and not being acknowledged, the relative value of the awards is vastly diminished. Okay, I don't disagree with that. Second, the idea of needing an award for contributing diminishes the idea of service for its own sake, making the dream possible for everyone. Fiken, I completely agree with you, actually. And that's the sort of bad side of awards, and that's often the arguments that are given for why awards shouldn't be given, right? And then specifically for service. Service is the one that's often like the hardest. I think it's hardest to become a pelican, or the path to being a pelican, I think, is the hardest. And pelicans that are watching, you can disagree with me on that. But I think that's the hardest one to see a tangible path for, because it's literally just bust your ass and cry for some period of time, and you finally. I know the joke always is when you finally learn to say no, you become a pelican. Because that's frankly, it's not wrong from what I've seen. But you're right. I think if we don't give awards consistently, it does diminish their values. And on that note, everybody stop right now and go write a letter. Find a person you think is awesome and write a letter about them to their majesties or to their excellencies or whoever's appropriate for you. Send a letter. That doesn't mean send a letter every week. That doesn't mean send one for everything. That doesn't mean if somebody sneezes, go write a letter saying they sneeze beautifully. I'm not saying that. Because I think that's also excessive and kind of dumb. But find people you think deserve things, that deserve recognition, that are struggling, that are doing a lot for their kingdoms. And make sure they're awarded appropriate. Make sure they have the appropriate accolades. Make sure they're equivalent. So, and make sure they're recognized for the work they do, because people need that, especially right now. Like this whole COVID thing is a shit place for a lot of people, and a lot of people are getting discouraged and not doing things because they're not getting the normal. So ordinarily, when we go to events, we get recognition from people. We get, oh, you're awesome, you're amazing, you're cool, yay, people, yay. We get that recognition on a daily basis. We don't necessarily need the award to do that. Right now, it's a different story. We're not getting that. We're not getting that daily recognition from our family, from our people. All right, awards are weird. People forget or assume you have awards. I got my AOA for Rapier, and 3 months later, got the GOA. Oh, fun. Okay. Yeah, I think David, that's a good point. I'll throw it up on the screen there. People do forget you have awards. Do you know why they forget you have awards? Because you don't wear them. And I'm not saying you specifically, but people don't wear their awards. People don't acknowledge their awards, so people don't know you have an award. If we as a culture, if we as a people, as a society would be more consistent, and that's a word that when I talk about titles here in just a minute, and I'm sure I'm not going to go over an hour for this, so like I'm going to stop when this coffee runs out. I'm about half a cup down. But if we would wear our awards consistently, wear our regalia, wear our bits and bobs and things, and those things were somewhat consistent. And I'll say somewhat consistent because everybody's going to adjust them to their own personas. But like if they were somewhat consistent, we would have a better idea of what awards people had. And this also sort of plays into the interkingdom anthropology thing of, if I go to Anstiora and look at their pointy hats, they're drastically different than our pointy hats, and I don't know what the frig those pointy hats mean. That's a whole different problem. Or their white scarf versus our white scarf versus any other random weird awards things, right? That's hard to figure out. But wear them consistently, put them on your resumes, be public about them, so that people know what awards you have and what awards you don't have, and people will stop making that assumption. Because if you're humble about it and you don't wear your regalia and you're just, I'm just Lord such and such, and awards are important to me, people aren't going to forget about you. They're not going to give you awards, or you'll end up getting 3 of the same award. I've seen it happen. There was a joke in Radiates for a while that if you got 3 AOAs, you could turn it in for a GOA, because it's happened. Or 3 GOAs would get you a peerage. That's not the case, by the way. Just full caveat there. Only crowns can give awards. Anyone can give largesse. Correct. This is a great point. Only crowns and coronets can give awards. Anyone can give a largesse item to encourage people in offer recognition. So, and this is a super period, by the way. It's a super period thing to do. And it's ladies specifically are the ones often thought to do this, but good God, anybody can do this, right? Give out cool things. Make a little doodad. So when I my first ANS event that I went to, and I had a thing up for, I came back to my table, like where my display was, and like there's all these little trinkets and doodads, and I was like, I got presents. And I was super excited about that. It was real random things, but like people thought enough of my thing and my cool thing that I did to give me a thing. But it was like little beads and a little spoon. Like none of it was very big or important, but it mattered so much to me. Honestly, probably mattered to me more than my awards have because somebody took their time out of their day to make that effort, right? And it was a little thing to them, but it was a huge thing to me. So my next A&S event, my only second A&S event, I went, damn it, I'm doing that. So the girls and I spent a good amount of time going through and making little dangles, like you would say, like Viking festoon dangles with like one of our badge items on it. Like I had my wagon wheel on mine, and just beads. It took me 10 minutes to make the thing, right? But I could then hand them out to people that I thought were cool, friends of mine that I did a neat thing. Hey, I like your A&S thing, right? And you know, it may not have mattered to them, but I was passing that on, and I knew it mattered to me. So do that all the time. If somebody carries your box for you, if somebody heralds for you, pay your people. Like seriously, pay your people for doing jobs. If somebody helps you do a thing, pay them. Give them a thing. Give them a cool like medallion or a cool coin thing or a bead or whatever. Like I have presents that I got from crowns and coronets years ago. I got a bag of salt one time from I think Alessandra. I think yes, that sounds right. It's a little bag of salt because she paid her people in salt, and that was a fun thing. That was a cool thing from a crown, but like it would have been cool from anybody, frankly. All right, let me catch up here. All right, the other side of it is that giving recognition through awards is entirely valid. The idea of having measurable stepping stones to help a person understand where they stand on their path is great. Agreed. How frustrating is it at work wondering whether you're even ready for that promotion if you have no objectives? Agreed. So because we are not a measurable objective society within the SCA, we don't have those legitimate stepping stones, right? We don't have check boxes we don't do annual reviews. If I am ever recognized as a peer in this kingdom, and or in any kingdom for that matter, and I take associates, we will have yearly or 6-month reviews. I will do periodic check-ins of their values. I will have some sort of system. I don't know what the system's going to be yet. And you know, I don't even have a peer to do that with currently. But I hope to. That's something I think is important because I think those reviews are important, so you know where you stand. People need to recognize there's a difference between acknowledging rewards we are given versus vanity and bragging. Yes, bingo. Thank you, Elfric. You summed me up. There is a difference between acknowledging your awards and accepting them and owning them versus bragging. To make a point about this chain again, and people talk about the chains, the sort of the knight chains and all these fieldy things and like stuff that has weight. There's a reason I gave this thing weight, because these awards have weight to me. They are reminders of what I have done and what people have thought of me, and they're acknowledgments of my path, and they are, but also I need to maintain that consistency. I need to maintain that effort. Likey, I would love to see more objective award systems. I agree with that, Likey. I would love to see more objective award systems. Good luck. Objectivity is not a thing that exists for people. It's impossible. Literally, objectivity is impossible. But I think, yes, that would be great. If we could be more objective in things we do, that would be lovely. It's unlikely to happen, and it's difficult to happen, frankly. But that's sort of a whole tangent discussion. And yes, Elfric, I remembered your name. Acknowledging awards is showing respect for the hand that bestows them. Yes, that is completely accurate. Acknowledging awards is showing respect for the hand that bestows them. And again, acknowledging awards is showing respect for the people who wrote you in, because the crown does, in my opinion, the least important part of it. The crown says, yeah, you got the cool thing. Here's your gold star, right? They get the honor of doing that, and that's really neat for people who get to do that. But that's one or 2 people a year out of these hundreds of us, right? The actual hard work is done by the people. It's done by those of us who are writing letters, and making sure the crown knows that, because Meridies, Ostia, these are giant kingdoms. The crown can't get everywhere. Our crown right now is in, we're locked down in COVID especially, but like they're in Georgia. I'm in bottom of Alabama. I've seen His Majesty in this region once since I've been back. I'm sure he's been here before, and I'm sure it happens, but like he doesn't come down here often because it's 6 hours away. So they're much more likely to see people in their local area when we're playing than they are down here. So it's important for people in Osprey, in these marginal areas, to write into those people, because they need to know that. They need to know what people are doing for those local groups, and not doing it at a large public kingdom level as well. I know it might sound shady, but as Seneschal, I look around my shire, see members that need recognition, and organize a letter writing campaign. It's not much different than pointing out to others what you see and seeing if they agree. I think it's a great thing, David. I know that happens a lot in a lot of local groups. There's usually somebody in the group that does that. Maybe not the Seneschals are the best job one for it. I have some opinions about Seneschal versus Crown and sort of the separation of powers there. I've been talking to a lady here in Meridies about that, about political efficacy, and that's a topic we may bring up in hopefully in a future show. Probably not a coffee chat, but another one with some people. But I think there needs to be some separation of powers between the Seneschal and the award system, which is the role play side of the SCA versus the legal side of the SCA. But I think that's important. I think it's a great idea. I know it gets done in Osprey sort of unofficially. There's usually somebody that says, "Hey guys, did you guys see Cal did this cool thing?" And they go, "No, we didn't see Cal did the cool thing. Hold on," and they go look up the cool thing that I did, and then then they write letters for that thing. Like I said, I don't necessarily believe in writing a letter a week. I don't necessarily believe in write a letter just to write a letter. But I think having somebody that's sort of their job to keep an eye out for that, to keep an eye out for the cool things people are doing, and then saying, "Hey guys, did y'all see this cool thing?" and making sure that happens. Maybe that's a good job for the Chatelaine. Maybe that's a good job for the somebody like that. That's literally just their focus, is making sure that the people are getting recognized. And that's something that Kisa does, I think, well she's sort of, her focus is shadowing the group itself, not just bringing in new people, but also bringing back people that are here. And retention is important. And awards help with retention. I know a lot of the conversations around peerages as of late, I say as of late, like a few years ago, actually, was the time between AOA and peerage. And that gap that was there, right? I think that gap is there because of the lack of attention, and that helps to retain people. If we keep them on their paths, we recognize them for their work, we acknowledge their pursuits. That helps with retention, helps keep people around, helps grow the society. Yes, everyone needs a good bard. Thank you. That's actually my cousin. What's up, Squirt? Yeah, everyone needs a bard. You're correct. Everybody needs a hype man. I always joke. That's what the Herald is. The Herald's just a hype man. I mean, that's what it is, though. All right, so I've touched on it a couple times. I want to toss it. I'm just going to stop and acknowledge that for a second. Thank you, Fiken. Yes, toss a coin to your Kalbardr. Yes. All right, so fair warning. I have never seen Witcher. Haven't watched it yet. I feel bad. I've heard the song, and I love all the memes around the Witcher thing, but I've not actually seen the series. I'm terrible. Calm down, Siri. All right, so I mentioned a dovetail, and I think this is a good spot to go into it. Why titles matter. And this is also another part of why awards matter to me. All right. Hey, guys. Controversial topic. Warning. We're just role-playing. We're a bunch of LARPers running around playing make-believe. Okay. Everybody settle? Everybody good? All right. So there's two halves of the SCA. There's the legal side, that we do all of our educational, historical research, all of that, right? That's the why we're a 501c3, why we're a legal entity, why we're a hobby group, okay? It's all the things we do that are voting. It's all the things that we do that are seneschal stuff, all the legal things, all the offices, all the reports, right? That's the hobby club. Then there's all of this. That's the tournaments and the crowns and the awards and the titles and all that. That's the role play stuff. It doesn't mean anything in the mundane world. This part does. This part doesn't. If I go to work and say, I'm Lord Kalbardr, you have to listen to me because I'm Lord... They don't care, right? But in the SCA, that thing has meaning. Yes, you shouldn't use it like that. And I was being extreme in the example, but like the legal side has meaning in the world. So if I say I am the seneschal, I am the president of the local Society for Creative Anachronism chapter, that has legal bearing, right? I filled out a form that says I'm responsible for this organization. But I am Lord such and such of Kingdom such and such means literally nothing. It and $1 will get you a cup of coffee. Right? Okay. So we're role playing. I've done role playing. I've played D&D for my entire life. I've LARPed. I've gone out in the woods on a weekend and thrown spell packets at monsters. Yes. Just get that in your head. I was Romani. It was amazing. Some of the most fun I've ever had. And I wish we could bring more of that into the SCA because I think we would have a lot more fun with our stuff. I'm getting comments on my Facebook too from people. So when we're role playing, right? And anytime we acknowledge our crown, anytime we bow to somebody, anytime we do the court stuff or the tournament stuff, we're role playing. These titles, whether you're a lord, a lady, an armiger, a duke, a duchess, a count, a countess, a king, a queen, most royal pontificating pointy hat, whatever, right? Those things play a part in our role play society. Okay. Do we need them? No. We could frankly throw all that out tomorrow and the SCA would still function, right? We don't have to have any of that. We have to have the classes. We have to have the education. We have to have the research. That's the actual legal important part of the SCA. We don't need the rest of it. But that's the fun part, right? I enjoy doing research too. I enjoy doing classes. I really enjoy teaching classes. I enjoy learning things. But all of this is the fun. So I was talking to Duke Sir Helga, Duke Sir Mistress Helga, and she hates when I do that, so I'm going to do it because those things mattered. So she is a duchess, she's a knight, and she's a pelican. And those three things all have weight to me. They matter to me because she is somebody that I feel now is important because she is those things, right? Because somebody recognized her and gave her those accolades, and she earned those accolades. Right, and she is and granted, she's also an amazing person. Don't get me wrong. Shout out to Helga. But like, there's and again, people like Tulia, and I'm going to use them because they're my two favorite people currently from the West. But so when I first was talking to Helga, I addressed her as Your Grace because she's a duchess, and that's how I play. Right? She kind of got grumpy at me. It was like, no, she goes, I'm just Helga. Don't. And I was like, no, Your Grace, you are a duchess. I am a lord. That's my place. That's how we play, right? That's how I interpret the dream. And that's a key word for a lot of people here, the dream, right? That's what we're dreaming. That's the SCA. Sorry, the fly. Those courtly, the courtly romance, the courtly love, the courtly appeal behaviors. That's what helps us embrace that medieval culture, right? And it's what helps us sort of stay in character of what we're doing. Because if we're just going to show up and be a hobby club, why am I wearing a funny hat? Or in this case, a funny circlet, right? Why am I putting on all these hundreds of dollars of clothes? Why do I care? If you're not going to be who you are, as the Duchess, as the King, as the Cornet, as whatever. Why does this matter anymore? Because if you're not going to acknowledge yours, you're not acknowledging mine. And you're not playing into that, right? The minute you break that sort of fourth wall, the minute you break the immersion, it all goes out the window. So this is a bit of a point to anybody out there that's of an elevated station, right? Count, countess, duchess, duke, kings, queens, cornets, even like the GOA orders, the mobs and the peers and whatever. Play your station. Your station's important. There are those of us coming behind you that care about that thing and that it matters to us. And I get you want to be humble, and I get that's important, and humility is an important aspect. But to not acknowledge your title is not acknowledging my title, or to not acknowledge your award is not acknowledging my award. And that's a hard path. That's a hard thing to do, because like, I mean, not only are you being humble and you trying to maintain your humility, right, is essentially shitting on everybody else who's done that same thing. And that may be my controversial opinion for the day, and I'm okay with that. And that's I think a hill I'll die on. Because the counterpoint is those things should never be used as a cudgel. And that's something else that Helga and I talk about too. And I'm sorry, Helga, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to keep calling you out because I think you and I have had a lot of good conversations about this topic. One of the things she said to me was that she only uses her Duchess title when she needs to use it as a weapon. And whereas I don't disagree with that. Like, there's times where that's needed, where you need to be, no, I'm the Duchess, you need to do X, Y, Z because there's some people that are just being dickheads about things they're doing, and sometimes you got to swing that bigger stick, right? But there's the other half of that too, of being the Duchess or being the Queen or being the Lord and acknowledging people. So like with these children running around, right? How cool is it as a kid in this society to get acknowledged by some Lord such and such for some cool thing that kid did, right? I'm not a kid. I was never a kid in the society. So those of you who were, please speak up. That to me seems important. So, and again, plays into that ambiance. Yes, the dream needs ambiance and environment. It is too difficult for us. That's actually one of the things Kisa said to me when she first went. So Sifa and I, my wife and I played for a few years before, took a break and came back, and brought Kisa, our girlfriend, in, and she came from a LARPing background. So she's used to the sort of fully immersive bits of this, right? So when she walked into the SCA and we're literally all dressed up in a mundane building with mundane lights, with mundane candles, with a mundane radio. Like there was sometimes not even attempts to maintain the immersion. She's like, I don't get it. There's no storyline here. There's no, what is it, right? And it took her a little bit to figure that out. It took her sort of a bit to find her place and sort of find her immersion. How do you balance the importance of titles with the folks that want to RP their chosen persona's lower station? All right. All right. So, Elfric, correct me if I'm wrong. What you're asking is, if someone is a count, but their persona is a beggar, how do you balance that? I think that's what you're asking. So, okay. All right. Here's my rant on that topic, because cool. So I mentioned earlier there's two halves of the SCA. There's the legal side and there's the roleplay side, right? And this also plays into my sort of rant on alternative titles and the abundance of alternative titles. And it's, again, sort of a controversial topic, and it's why I've had this discussion with a couple people. But when you're recognized as a peer, or as a count or whatever, a peer, the giant box of peerage, right? I mean all the peerages. You now have a part in this society. I don't care what your persona is. I don't care if you're a Mongol, because Mongols, they had a Khan, and they had generals, and that's it. They didn't have lords and ladies and courtly things. Yes, our entire society is built off of medieval Europe, folks. Sorry, that's what it is. Okay, let's fix it. Totally agree with that. We can make it better, but right now that's what it is. Okay, so we're all role playing as if we are all in medieval Europe. Wherever your persona is from, cool. So if you're a Mongol, whatever, the Meridies court, and I'm going to speak for Meridies specifically, the Meridies court and the general SCA courts are based off of a medieval Europe model, but we're not role playing as if we're in medieval Europe. We are role playing as if we're in medieval Meridies. Think about that for a second. Okay, we're not in medieval England. We're not in medieval France. We're in medieval Meridies, or Anciora, or medieval Trimaris. So if you're a knight in Meridies. I'm going to say knight in Meridies, not a knight of Meridies, because apparently that makes people grumpy. But that's a whole different topic. You're the king of Meridies. You're not the king of England. So you're a count of Meridies. That's a title within here. So even if you were a beggar, even if you were a peon, the lowest of lowly, and that's the persona you chose to take on or chose to start with, within our kingdom, you have become more than that. One of my favorite movies, A Knight's Tale, and people crap on it all the time and don't care. It's one of my favorite movies. A man can change his stars. I think our society, the dream we dream, is a great example of that. You can come in as the most awkward, goofy, just wearing a crap tea tunic person and become king. That's amazing, right? That's not a thing you could have done in medieval times. Like, it didn't exist, folks. Like, that's a thing we can do now. Everybody has an equal shot at that, with some limitations. That, yes, before you burn me at the stake on that one, but it's at least there. Yes, we may not all be able to be king. Yes, we may not all be able to be X, Y, Z exact thing, right? But we all have at least the ability to become more than we are. So start as whatever. Start as your peasant, right? But when you're acknowledged as not a peasant, you kind of got to accept that, right? And that's actually that's a cool thing. So like from a roleplay side, right? So playing in LARPing groups, and I'm not going to mention the LARPing group because I had some personal problems with the LARPing group that I was part of, but it's actually always really cool to see characters starting out on day one and then seeing them a year later, right? Or seeing them some time later and how they progressed. And watching those characters build on themselves and watching them grow, watching them have new garb and new magical items and like that. It's always really neat to watch that progress, right? Sam. All right, Brian. Starting in the SCA when I was 12, it was interesting watching people realize I was no longer a kid. Well, that's yeah. I can see, and I can see those people who were children who are now not having that trouble bridging that gap. Honestly, I saw that problem. So when I started, I was 18, 19. I saw the issue now of I'm not the adult that I am. People have trouble changing in the SCA. People have trouble adjusting. People have trouble. They see you and they go, "Cool, Brian's this," and they sort of form you in a box. And people have trouble adjusting that box as you change. Think on that. All right, from Fiken. So the king seeing somebody needing a hand sitting up their tent and jumping in and or calling people to help. That's humbly being more than just the king. The not so good. Only acknowledge on time when you use weapon. Yes, okay. So I think both halves of that what you said, Viking, are using it as the weapon, right? So His Majesty Sebastianos, when I first got back in, said, we finished feast. His Majesty stood up and said, "I'm gonna go wash dishes," and went to the kitchen. You can't stop him because he's the king, right? But the people that jumped up and followed him was inspiring. I was one of them, to toot my own horn here, because I was like, you're damn right I'm going to be behind my king doing this, right? That's important to me. And again, it's just some guy. Like, his name is, his name is Bill. He goes to work Monday, right? Everybody goes to work Monday morning the same way. But for that 5 minutes, for that hour, for that weekend, he's my king. And I will follow him to battle, right? I may not agree with his politics. I may not agree with him Monday morning about how we do business, right? But right then, he was my king, and I followed him into battle. Our battle may have been with the dishes, but like it was still a battle. So yeah, using your royal stations to help people, right? And using it as an example, so not as a cudgel. So instead of telling somebody, "Hey, go help him," you as king go help them. You as count go help them, and others will follow. Thoughts? I knew I was in deep when I started to feel weird about using replica gold pieces for Gluckhouse. Each of these are a year's wage. Is this going to take someone out of the dream? Okay, so again, so we are a vast society, everything ranging from the highest of high nobility in England to the lowest of low peasants on the steppes, of the Mongolian steppes, right? So money and wealth and fame, all these things have nothing, have no consistency. And again, some of the problems I have with titles in the alternate titles we're using or looking to use is there's no consistency between a count, or even like let's just look at just Europe, right? A count in France versus a count in England versus a count in Germany. There aren't necessarily equivalencies of those things, right? So we have trouble finding direct equivalencies, especially when you move into the non-European things of how do we find equivalencies. So if you look at a single gold piece, that means one thing in England, means one thing in France, means one thing in Germany, means entirely different thing in China or in Japan or in Korea. So what does a gold piece mean to us in Meridies? David, I think that speaks to your point there. Is don't worry about what it meant to your persona then, what it would have meant to your persona. Worry about what it means to you now. What did you do to earn that gold piece? Right? So if you washed dishes with at an event and somebody paid you in a gold piece, gold piece. We'll use sort of generic gold piece for whatever award, whatever thing you were given, right? Versus you found it laying on the ground. Well, the worth of that now is two different things. Because we have no monetary system to base it around. It's based off what you did to achieve that thing. That's how I would do it. It's how I view it. Your mileage may vary, but I think that's the important. I know when I'm playing dice, one of the rules is whoever dictates the game also dictates the currency. So if I say, okay, the game is first person roll 3 threes wins, and the bet is one coin, right? Well, I don't have any coins, so I bet with beads and things like that. So like the other people then have to show me, hey, is this worth a coin to you? It may not be worth a coin to the next guy. So you always have to verify with the person playing the game what if your thing you have is worth 1 coin or whatever the bet is. Hey Kalbardr, I've never LARPed, only role played. So yeah, I get how difficult it can be to change. I want to learn to LARP, but I don't know how exactly. That is a conversation you and I can have offline because that's a whole different discussion. But we can LARP in the SCA, just a different thing. The only difference between LARP and roleplay is that the game, and there are many, usually have some other rules. Some use bot for combat, others have character sheets. Correct. So LARPing in general is very much just it's live action roleplay. Generally, when you have groups that are story based, there's usually some external thing happening. There's somebody running a game that interacts with the thing. In the SCA, we don't have that. So we don't have a storyline. We don't have there's not a plot team that's sort of running the thing of saying, oh look, there's monsters coming, whatever, right? It's storming apparently. That doesn't mean we can't roleplay. It doesn't mean we can't interact with that. It doesn't mean we can't embrace the culture that is the LARPing community, right? It just, you have to make the effort because a lot of people are, and this is, I think, was one of Kisa's problems when she first joined, was she was very reactionary and wanted to react to a story. Whereas in the SCA, you have to make your own story. You have to find that story. You have to seek the story out. You can't just react to it. Yeah. And that, folks, is an empty cup of coffee. So, Normally to play, I do silly interesting. There you go. That's funny. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining me this morning. This has been a lot of fun. I plan to do these on a regular basis. If you have a question or want my opinion on something, please send it to me. Shoot me a message. If you're for friends on Facebook, shoot me a message that way. If not, you can send it to my page, Kalbardr's Corner on Facebook, which you all probably have seen because you're following it there. Also, there are now 7 people viewing. If all 7 of you will do me a favor this very minute, go to my YouTube channel, Kalbardr's Corner, and like on there. Like, follow, subscribe, push all the buttons. I don't know, I'm not a YouTube guy, but push the buttons, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. Let's help me grow this. I think this is a lot of fun. This is something that I'm doing to keep myself from being crazy. I'm locked in my house with my ladies, and we're all going nuts. So this is something that's a way I can contribute to society, a way I can talk to people, and a way I can get my views out there and have fun doing it. Every Wednesday, I have my What You Playing Wednesday, where we play a game and talk about a game thing. So tune in for that. It's usually, I think, at 8 o'clock every Wednesday. I'm also going to be doing a medieval book club coming up. I did one similar with Sir Helga, where we took a book but it was very much a self-help book. I'm also talking with her and Tulia now about doing one that's more of just a medieval book, and like we're gonna discuss that later about just doing a read along maybe, and not actually a self-help book. But we're gonna Helga and I are gonna do another one of those too, because I think it was a lot of fun. So, anywho, thank you all for joining. This has been a lot of fun. I look forward to doing this in the future. Just keep an eye on the channel. I'm gonna kind of do this randomly as I have thoughts. But if you have a question or want my opinion on something, please send it to me, and I will be happy to address it. Or if I have a thought on the topics, I'll bring it up. So, as always, folks, this has been Kalbardr, and this is Kalbardr's Corner. Thanks.